So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this, and welcome to the Down the Lane podcast. After a 5-2 defeat yesterday at Chippenham, in which probably most of us now are of the belief that that is it. I mean, I know we have games to play, but I wasn't there yesterday. But hearing from others about how it was yesterday, etc., wasn't good. Miles, you went down there yesterday.
Yep.
Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, as you said there, final nail in the coffin. I always like to be optimistic about things, but we're with 9 points, 9 points adrift now with 6 to play, and I don't see us picking up another three. If I'm being honest with you. So we're definitely playing Isthmian League football next year, which is just devastating. Just coming to terms with it properly now. I thought we're more likely to go down than not for the last few months, but I still had that little bit of hope. But any hope I've got now is absolutely gone. As for the performance, disgraceful. Not a single player can leave that field in a Eastbourne Borough shirt with any sense of pride or satisfaction. They've done a good day at work. They were from 1 to 11, absolutely awful. Just a catalogue of errors. I mean, it just goes to show how poor it was when Steve King in his interview is saying, calling out players' determination and attitude and that sort of thing. I mean, that's the absolute bare minimum you expect from a group of players, of full-time players, to show a bit of effort and passion. And there just wasn't any of that really. From my point of view, we had players. I'm going to start calling out players, unfortunately, like Leif ducking out of headers, the new signing, Castro off the first goal, long goal kick up. He just completely doesn't. He just doesn't want to have the header. Essentially, doesn't go up for it. They then break and we concede. Just really not acceptable. Like for the fans, there must have been about, I don't know, 20, 30 of us maybe that made the very long trip. I mean, the M4 just goes on forever, doesn't it? Down to Chippenham, and to see that is just absolutely disgraceful, completely unacceptable. And I don't want to see 90% of 95% of that squad next season. I'll go as far to say now the only three that we can realistically say we're going to keep, because obviously players like Eastman are good players, but they're not going to stay. The only three that I could realistically like to see us keep at this point is Arthur, Quick, and Freddie. But obviously Freddie's quite injury prone, so we might struggle there. But yeah, rest of them absolutely embarrassing. The keeper has got to be one of the worst keepers I've ever seen us have. Diabolical. When he played against Hampton, I wasn't there, but I heard he played all right. And then the last few games has been error after error after error. I mean, the first goal he didn't get strong enough hand to it, which is frustrating. Saves a penalty, to be fair to him, and then second half he was absolutely diabolical. At one point he decides to take a Dixie heavy touch. Don't know what he's trying to do. Maybe dribble out and play up. No idea. Gets tackled. They hit the post, and it's just so weak. He doesn't command his box. Can't play out with his feet. Can't shot stop. We've had a couple of all right keepers on loan this season, but any permanent keeper we've had this season has been dreadful. So yeah, not good enough. Kai completely lost his head at one stage. He got fouled. Probably was a foul, whether it was inside or outside the box. I can't remember, to be honest with you. Probably was fouled, and then he just decided to jump in with 2 feet off the floor. Probably was a red card. I've seen it back, and the angle's not the best, whether he was led with 1 foot or 2. But in real time, I thought it was a red card. He completely lost his head, and we can tell that that was the case for not just Kai, for many players. Didn't want to be there. Are they just putting in the bare minimum now to the end of the season, or trying to get moves, that sort of thing? I've been full on just raging this morning, to be honest with you. I just looked on Instagram, and Mullins came off the bench and scored, and then he's putting on his Instagram that he's got 10 or 11 goals and assists this season in 15 games, which is absolute nonsense. I'll just call it out for what it is, because I do the stats on my phone. I've done it for the last few seasons. I'll count up on Twitter and get after every game, look back through highlights of goals, assists, yellow cards, etc. I've got a full compiled list of them, and he hasn't got 10 goals and assists this season. So I'd like him to show me where those are, because he's on, I believe, 2 goals, 3 assists so far this season. So I just try and put himself in the shot window, and I get you to got look after number one, but at the same sense, you've got to have a commitment to your current employers, and a lot of those players just didn't put in the required standard, required effort. So yeah, I've probably got more thoughts to add, but that's my initial rant. I've been speaking for nearly 5 minutes already, so Baz, I'll let you have a chance to chip in now, and I'll collect my thoughts and see what I can add in a second.
Yeah, I think obviously I didn't go yesterday, but I saw some of the comments that you guys have made. Um, I saw some of the yeah, some of the posts on the forum, um, and obviously wasn't good. But one thing that did essentially stick with me a little bit was the Steve King interview afterwards, where it was um, they. You know, a lot of what he said was, "Oh, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, they can't do this, they can't do that," and it's just like, you know, there has to be a little bit of ownership there. Um, you know, he's the man steering the ship, as we've called our other managers this year. Um, you know, I think we need to. I don't know. I just think we need a complete reset, and I don't know how that. I don't know how that is. You know, I made a comment yesterday to you that we could be looking. I think this year, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong when you do your homework on the numbers. Um, but I think we could be looking at our worst ever points total this year.
Yeah, I've done the
Um,
homework. Baz, you're spot on. Yeah, you're spot on.
yeah, in our history, right? In our history, and you know, when when this, you know, when this became a dream 3 years ago, you know, around May of 23, you know, that Simon was coming in, and we we then soon after that, when Simon had bought the club, we had that meet the owner night, um, and you know, I forget the guy's name now, but the guy from Talksport was on the stage with Simon, and we were told, you know, oh, this is the plan, you know, a 5 year plan to get us to the EFL. We're going to have an academy. We're going to have um, a successful women's side. We're going to have, which, you know, listen, the ladies are doing very, very well, and I'm not going to take that away. Um, you know, they had a heavy defeat last week, but they were playing Lewis, who are 3 leagues above us. So, I mean, and Lewis were in the WSL not long ago, right? So, you know, and we know that Lewis pay their ladies team the same as the men. So that was a, you know, a very strong side. And to go there and score 2 goals against them is probably good. Um, so listen, I get that there are positives at the club. I get that the ladies are doing well and that the youth teams are doing well. But essentially, what this club is built on, what this club is founded on, what this club um, is the men's team, right? That is what, you know, as well as the youth. I mean, we've brought youth players through, and you know, in our head of years when we got up to the National League itself, you know, we were using local players that have probably played in our youth setup, that have probably played, um, but they were local players. You know, we've had Ben Austin on the pod not long ago, where he was telling us the commitment, and you know, I just look and see that, you know, the one that we chuckled at was that Wrexham away game, right, where he left work at 12:30. He's gone up to Wrexham on the train. He's run from Wrexham railway station to the ground. He's then played a full 90 minutes, come back on the coach, picked his car up at Lewis, and gone and slept on a mat in the school gym. Now I know we're in different times. I know we're in different times, but that's the sort of dedication, that's the sort of passion that we have had at this football club for a long time, and that's passion that I've seen. And I know, you weren't around then, Miles, but it's stuff you, you do a lot of. You do a lot of research. You watch a lot of things. You listen to a lot of people. So it's stuff that you've been told about, and we've got a lot of our fans that have been a lot of our supporters that have watched this club for years and years and years, and we all saw that, and we all saw the hard work, the dedication that was put in, and I just don't see that now. I don't see that from the players. I don't see it from the 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 club staff. I just don't see it, and it. I just don't. I mean, you know, we've been waiting an hour to record this, and I still don't know what I'm saying. I still don't know what I want to say
No.
because I just can't. I can't process it. So yeah, there's my little one. So now I'm going to move back to you. I'm going to pass the baton over, Miles. See if you've refreshed yourself.
Yes, it's just been a catalogue of errors on the footballing side of things. I don't feel it's appropriate to discuss the anything non-footballing side because let's be completely frank, we're relegated and we're a down the lane for football podcast. And mainly everyone cares about what's going on the pitch. So I've put what I've said before about stuff off the pitch on other podcasts, so you can listen to those. So today is purely about I guess picking the bones over our relegation essentially. And whoever's individually, collectively, etc., being accountable for these decisions this season, I think needs to be asked to leave at the end of the year, or more sooner, to be honest with you, because we've just wasted so much resources, the amount of payouts that managers have had, in the last few years. I mean, I think someone put a good, well, not a good comment, but like a informative comment on the forum, or two actually that come to mind. Someone, I'm not sure, I haven't fact checked this, but said we had 44 players this season, which is more than points. I mean, 44 players. I know we're at a different level of football to players that are committed to 3, 4, 5 year contracts and are playing for higher up professional football clubs, but 44 players is just absolutely disgraceful. I mean, that just shows the recruitment's on its knees. The fact that we're just bringing players in and they're playing 2 or 3 games, and some people don't even know who the players are. Like my mum and my sister, they went to quite a few games in the last couple of years, particularly last year. Really got into it. It's sort of the whole Adam Murray social media, also doing well, etc. And they used to go because they used to know the players. Like mum doesn't really watch football unless she knows the players. She's not a massive football fan. She just likes it because I do. But she'll watch England because she knows who Harry Kane, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, etc. are. She can't watch this afternoon. It's Tottenham versus Nottingham Forest. Wouldn't have any interest in her whatsoever because she doesn't care about Tottenham or Nottingham Forest, and she knows none of their players. And it's the same applies to Borough currently. Like, I came home yesterday and we had like a brief chat about it at like 9:30 in the evening. That's the time I got home last night. And I'll be like, X player, for example, didn't play very well, and she'd be like, I don't even know who that is. And she does listen and she does follow our podcast, reads the forum, etc. But last season, I confidently now, if I went downstairs and asked her to name 1 to 11 of the last season squad, should be able to name most of them. So that just shows a revolving door of players, and how could you ever build any sort of cohesion in any sort of team if you're just chopping and changing it like every month or two, like currently? Because there's very, very few players that have played consistently throughout this season, across all the managers. You could probably only name Eastman's, Grout, Trusty, Quick, and then Carl's been injured quite a bit, and it's pretty about it, really, isn't it? Obviously George gone now, etc. So yeah, I mean, as a player, I was at one point, it struck me actually because I can't remember who it was, but someone said Lee, as in Lee Angle, he wants the ball, and I was shocked to even know his name because both of them haven't been there for very long. And I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if one of the new signs like Jack Jebb or whoever it may be, it's come in recently. Just, they don't know don't know players' names, which isn't very good when you're trying to build a team. And back in the day before I started supporting, I know it's different times. I appreciate that, but you've got to look at the squad we had, and players would play a good couple of hundred games for us. We're so far away from that currently. If our longest serving player currently is Dan Quick and Freddie Carter, right? And they've been here for 2.5, 3 years nearly. And then in the summer, I'm sure that we're not going to be able to keep Freddie and Dan for different reasons. I doubt both of them will stay because I believe that they're both of the standards that can play in the National League South. But then we're just back to square one again. Our longest serving player will probably be player like, I don't know, Arthur Grout on 36 games or whatever it is currently. So this is absolutely ridiculous. We've made countless managerial mistakes. I don't know how we can get it wrong so many times, and I'm not even sure. Jury's still out on Steve King. I'm not going to judge Steve King too early in the sense that I don't want to sort of blame him for where we're at currently. But equally, he's got to be held accountable for the last few games because we've been diabolical. And I agree with you, Barry. I don't like how it's all day all the time. Whether he knows what he signed up for the other day. He knew he was coming into a relegation battle, and you'd hope that when it was discussed, what the terms of what the board expected of him, going into these last when he came in, it was like 8 or 9 games left, wasn't it? You'd have thought they had some expectations, exceptionally. It sounds to me like he was sort of told that we're going to go down and assess the squad and then try and rebuild next season, because I don't see. He doesn't look like he hasn't really galvanised anything currently. It just feels like everyone's sort of waiting to be put down, as it were. And that just makes me go on to my next little point I wanted to add on about. I actually said on the podcast when Steve King was appointed that I said I wasn't sure. I don't know whether getting him in at the time he got in was the correct decision. And I said I didn't really have a feeling either way. So I felt it could have gone one or two ways. Obviously, it's gone a negative way, where we get a third or fourth or fifth or whatever it is at this point, new manager bounce. And if he managed to get a tune out of his players, then it could be carrying the momentum that Robbie Blake started. Or equally, it could be the most horrendous time to change it, because other than the Salisbury game, Robbie Blake did a tremendous job. We had 3 good performances in the league against Salisbury, Hampton, Dorking, and Torquay, and then we changed it when we felt like we were just sort of getting somewhere for the first time for a few months. Timing wise on that feels very strange to me. I feel disappointed that Robbie wasn't given a chance in the season to sort of see it out. I understand it's difficult to make decisions in the football, and hindsight's a brilliant thing, but it does just feel a bit strange. It is sort of the situation we're in now. Steve's not giving me any sort of confidence, even when he first came in, about the fact we're going to might survive. It feels like to me he's told me just a write-off this season, and then just go again in the Ishbin League, which won't be easy. I'll discuss that in a second once we sort of pick the bones over this first. But I'm not too hopeful currently for next season either. I just feel like there's such a negative vibe, culture, whatever you want to call it, around the club currently. Doesn't really feel any. I don't have any sort of optimism that next season's going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Relatively much better, because obviously in the league below, expectations will be much higher, which we'll have to contend with too.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with anything you've said, and I mean, I think when you said there about 44 players, that was something that I read last night as well, and I was the one who commented that that's going to mean we've got more players than points, and we're not going to get to 44 points this year. There's no way in the world we get to that.
No.
But I just think that we're at that situation now where, let's be fair, everybody is now expecting, and listen, nobody wants to give up. You never give up until you can't get to that line, right? So we've got 6 games to go. We've got 18 points if we win all 6 games, and that could keep us up. But the reality is that we are not going to secure them points. To win 6 out of 6 would be something that we haven't done
This
in a
whole
very long
season.
time.
Even on the when do we ever win 6 out of 6 under Murray? Like,
I don't know. Yeah,
and
that's what I was
that's not a
trying to.
slight.
I
That's
was
not
actually
that's not a
trying to
slight
think.
on Murray. It's not a slight on Murray
No.
because it was excellent, but I don't remember a time we won 6 games under Adam. I'm just trying to rack my brain now, but we would have had like a draw or maybe the odd loss in there as well. Like it's so done. Like there's absolutely
Well,
no hope now
that's
whatsoever. Like
that's your challenge for the next pod. Is you can find out when we last won 6 games on the trot.
all I say is it's a good job.
6
I'm not doing
competitive
that.
games.
Yeah, it's a good job not doing that cut in the hair challenge or whatever Man United fans doing because I think I'll be the same state as him. This season.
But I mean, I think we've got to look at that. That let's be fair. Like I say, we expect that we're down, and I think that the any any small hope of us staying up that people had is probably diminishing now. And I think that we know now that we need a reset, and I think this is a time for everybody. And it reminds me of a post that I put on the forum after the Horsham game, where I said if a man realizes he can't do a job, if a man realizes that he hasn't got the qualities to do a job, it doesn't make him any less of a man if he walks away and says, "I'm going to leave it to somebody else." That was not aimed at anyone who's at the club at the moment. Our performances were poor at the time, and it was. I think it was pretty obvious. I was aiming it at Matt at the time because we just suffered that 2-0 away defeat at Horsham, which at the time we came away from there saying that was the worst we'd seen Borough play in a very long time. Unfortunately, that isn't now the worst I've ever seen Borough play.
No.
And this is the thing for me. This is where we need, like I say, we need that bit of accountability. We need people to take stock, and even if they have made mistakes, even if mistakes have been made, just take a little bit of stock about it. Just be a little bit more, honest, and own it. When kids are growing up, right? We say to them, if you've done something wrong, own it. If you've done something that isn't right, own it. And listen, none of us know the inner workings of the club. None of us know exactly how much these managers have been paid out. None of us know exactly, what goes on. Only what we're told. And we wouldn't be told everything, right? Because it's their business. It's, they're running the business. So I don't expect that. But what I do expect is I expect a bit of honesty. And then it gets people, when times like this happen, it gets people questioning. I'm sort of going back thinking, oh, right, well, next season, we might go back to part-time. We might go hybrid. We might go, it's already something that's been said is being considered. And so I want to go back to when Simon first came in again and that initial decision to go from part-time to full-time. Now, we knew that would probably mean the end of Danny Glore. We knew that probably would mean the end of certain players that can only play part-time. And we know that, some of them went off and found clubs in our league, and have played very successfully in our league. in that time. And my feel is that, there must have been an initial meeting, an initial get together of the players where the club said, right, we're going to go full time. Now, obviously, at that time, you would expect that the players that wanted to be kept, and we all know from what we were told when Mark came in, that Mark had got a dossier on the players that were at the club. And this will lead me on to another thing about Steve in a minute. But we were told that Mark had a dossier on all the players that were at the club and whatever else. And then all of a sudden, obviously, a lot of them left, and we had to try and sign a squad, which is effectively kind of what we had to try and do this year after people have signed on for other teams. And, because it was quite late in the day in that first season, teams have built the majority, other teams in our league have built the majority of their squad. And all of a sudden, good players that they probably thought were never going to become available because they were Eastbourne Borough players. And they'd probably said, no, I'm staying at Eastbourne Borough next year. All these good players suddenly became available. So then they moved on and they started playing. So I think, my question there would be, I'd like to know what happened, and not on an individual basis, but I would like to know what happened around that time. I would like to know how the club were told that the players weren't going to be able to go full time. These players that have got good jobs, these players that have got full time jobs. How the club were told that, how they, and a bit of explanation really, because it worked in season 2. And this is it. It worked in season 2, but I think the reason it worked in season 2 was because Adam had come in, and when Adam first came in, he didn't hit the ground running straight away. We had a few iffy games, but then all of a sudden he brought the players in he needed, and we ended up that season, the season that we avoided relegation, by beating Braintree last game of the season away, who were in the playoffs and who ended up winning the playoffs and beating Worthing in the final. So I think season 2 for me, the hard work for that was done in season 1, in the latter part of season 1 when Adam came in, and to that this is what I don't get. I don't understand the people in the power at the club. We then move on to Steve, who's obviously here now. And you just mentioned when you were talking a minute ago, Miles, about he must have known. Well, we know that Steve has watched lots of games for us this season and lots of games in our league. He's openly admitted that. So he would have had an idea of them players that he had to work with when he came in. We know he was there against Torquay, the Torquay game, which was probably when the application was starting around about that time. But it wasn't announced until after the Salisbury game. So, there was time in that period for him to do a bit more research and a bit more work. And listen, if you're applying for a job, if you're looking to get yourself into a position, to look good in that interview, you need to go in and you need to know what you're talking about. You need to know the players you're talking about. So I think, that's what hit me yesterday about the they in the interview. I mean, the interview was what, 3 minutes, just over 3 minutes. And yet, again, I don't know this for certain, but somebody put on one of the I don't know if it was the forum or one of the chat groups or something, that he was out there for quite a while, and a lot longer than 3 minutes. And so, what was going on in that time? And was there stuff that was that the best that we saw? Was there stuff? Maybe he called out players. Maybe he sort of, like you've just done, Miles. Maybe he called out players, and maybe I mean, obviously, he said in his interview that what is said in the changing room stays in the changing room, and that's good management. I don't care what anyone says; that is good management. If you're gonna tear down someone, you tear them down. But I look at every single Borough team. I look at the team that was fighting relegation 2 years ago. I look at the team that was up there at the top, and if I'd have said to you, Miles, and probably every single season, give me your top 10 passionate, dedicated players for Eastbourne Borough, and I could probably go back many, many years if I was looking at the squads. I could certainly go back the last 2 years and give you my top 5, 10, whatever. If you ask me this year, I'd struggle. And I'd struggle because, to me, it doesn't seem like they're putting the effort in. It doesn't seem like they're working as hard as they can. So, I mean, look, we're both here. We're chewing the fat today, but basically, we're just both depressed. We've realised that actually this is where it's going. And then we move on to next season. And for all these people that sit there and go, that's all right, we're bouncing straight back up. That Isthmian League is a hard football league. It's a very hard football league. And that is not going to be easy. And when I hear the words, "Oh, well, that's all right, we'll go at it next year if relegation happens," and this is from people at the club, but if relegation happens, we'll go at it next year, and we'll make sure that we bounce straight back up. Sorry, I've heard them promises. I heard them promises. I heard them statements when I was told we were going to be an EFL club. The 5-year plan was to get into the EFL. We couldn't do that now. The minimum time we could do that in is 6, because we're going to have 3 promotions, not 2. And I suppose that's where I'm at, just sitting here. Yeah. Over to you.
Hi guys, I'm Gary. I'm the owner of Polegate Car Sales. If you're looking to buy or sell your vehicle anywhere in the country, I am your man. We're open 7 days a week. Sunday is appointment only, but Ben works 6 till 10 any hour God sends. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah.
Game of tennis with a long shot.
I know, pretty much. Just like a 5-minute rant each, and then pass it back over. Yeah, I mean, on the whole going down thing, as you said, we just heard the promises in this year, and I don't trust the ownership currently to deliver on a promise next year. Like, actions speak louder than words in pretty much all walks of life. So if we can build a good squad and we can start the season well, then yeah, I'll start to believe again, because I don't like coming here and being pessimistic. And if you go back and watch some of the earlier podcasts we did, back end of last season, I was always optimistic and I'd always predict us to win. And it's just not me. It's not how I want to be, but I want to be fair at the same time. And it's important for us to be honest and open, and not put rose-tinted glass on everything. So on the going down, ridiculously tough league. Any league in non-league, think realistically is fairly tough, relatively speaking, in the sense that every single league, even going up to step 1 in the National League, only one team can ever automatically go up. That's in any league. From step 1 to tier 5 all the way down to whatever the bottom tier is nowadays, maybe like tier 17. And if you have a situation where you have one other team that also has the same ambitions as us, because there will be some teams in the Isthmian League below that will be happy to stay there because that's their level. They feel they can't compete any higher. I'm thinking the likes of maybe like a Wingate and Finchley or Cray Valley Paper Mills, those sort of clubs. There's nowhere near level to be able to start competing to go up to the National League South. But there will be other teams in there. There's quite a few other teams that are in the same position as us. They're either hurt National League clubs, as in us, that will want to try and get back to where they were before, or these up and coming aspirational clubs. So I'm thinking of like Burgess Hill. Burgess Hill this season are 8th, 9th. I know they lost yesterday, and they probably look like they're not going to get playoffs, but they'll want to go one better next season. And they've been excellent in recruiting local players that are doing really well for them. So they're a bit of a throwback in that sense. And then you'll have teams like Dartford's and St Albans and all these names that we're so used to battling with over the last few years that will want to get back up, and they've had now a couple of years to get used to the division. We're going in fresh, and we're going to have to learn those lessons quickly. And there's a post that I retweeted on my Twitter account about a month ago now about like the percentage of teams that go up. I think it was 2 that have been up, like bounced straight back up. After getting relegated to that league, so just shows you how difficult it is. And currently, I don't have much trust and faith that we're going to be able to do that. Like I say, I reserve the right to change my mind if I see the squads and we put together a strong pre-season, a strong first few games. But currently, I don't have any faith in us being able to do that. And one thing's for sure, we've got to clear out 90% of this squad, like I just said there, or even higher percentages than that, which is just so sad. Like, we just can't get attached to basically any players pretty much. The only ones I feel any sort of sentiment towards currently are people like Quick and Carter, because it's like a revolving door, like I said earlier. The amount of summers we've gone into now with managerial upheaval or player upheaval and that sort of thing, it's just we're not a steady, stable football club currently. And I just hope that the board go into next season with the right mindset and approach, in the sense that I don't really want to hear that we're going to go down and we're going to smash this league or anything like that at all. Because we had Tom from Torquay on a few weeks ago, didn't we, when we played them? And they're obviously a club that were in the Football League, and their probably level is about Torquay for me, League 2. So them being in our league currently is about the equivalent of us going down to the Isthmian South East, which would be, obviously this is a disaster. That would be catastrophic if we were to have a situation like Welling, for example, where they're potentially going to be in that league next year. So yeah, you can only imagine how hurt they must feel to have to come to teams respectfully like Chippenham, even like us. Then them playing us is just mental in terms of where they should be. Oh, sorry, Braz.
Yeah, I just think as well that the issue is with the whole bouncing straight back up thing is that the teams that go down, especially someone like us, who have always been a part of that National League setup since 2004, we will be looked at as the big club.
Yeah.
And there are teams in our league now that do not want to go up. And I would have said, and I'll probably be backed up by some of the ex-board, but you go back over the period of time, especially since we came down from the National League itself, there was probably a period of time where, yes, it was nice to get to the playoffs, but as soon as you got to the playoffs, as soon as you got in that, it started producing the headache of where are we going to be able to fund this. And we know from when David Blackmore's come on that he said that the club needed that bit of investment to take it to the next level, because We could not afford it. So by us dropping down, obviously we're going to be able to afford it, but we're going to be classed as the big boys. We're going to be classed as one of the favourites to go up. And as soon as you get that tag, as soon as you get that status, these teams that know they're not going to go up, they're just happy to maintain their level in the Isthmian, or the teams that are happy to maintain their level in our league at the moment, including us. You know, when teams like Torquay came, it was our cup final. You know, we wanted to win them games of football. And you're going to find that a lot of clubs will be, oh, come on, boys, we've got Eastbourne Borough this weekend. And they'll be rubbing their hands and they'll want to win that game of football. And I think that's why it's difficult to come up. I don't think it's the fact of, you know, the players or whatever else. You know, any team that gets relegated, and there isn't a massive difference. We know that. We know that players that have played in our league have dropped to the Isthmian or to that level, to that step. So there's not a great deal of difference in the level of players, and you know, when we had, I forget who it was now, when we had a guest on who said that the problem with being a full-time team in our league is you are picking from the worst of the full-time players.
Ben Austin said that.
Ben Austin, yeah. And I think Mark White even said a bit about this, didn't he? Where he said, you know, it's the level of players that, and you know, so yeah, we'll be a part-time team, but there's also going to be part-time teams in the south next year. So,
and how good are the Isthmian clubs that have come up recently as well? Like, there's so many good sides that have come up in recent years that, you know, just so well run. Like your Hornchurches, Horshams, Worthings, etc. Like, there's bound to be one of those in the league next year. We're not going to go into this league and everyone's going to be some amateur side and we're going to go and turn them over. Like, obviously there'll be a few games like that. Like, there's the likes of Canvey Islanders, you know, getting up to destroyed down there currently. But there'll be tons of teams like, you know, Dulwich, that sort of thing. They're not going to roll over us because we're in town. They're going to want to be up for even more.
Dulwich are getting like 3,500 fans, you know, 3,000 fans, 2,500 fans on quite a regular basis. And, you know, you've got to look at it that with that amount of fans coming through the door, they haven't been able to get the promotion. Now, obviously, the money is generated from the fans. I don't know what they're charging to get in, but the money is generated from the people coming through the door. So are they another club that actually, because there are clubs, I've said this before, there are clubs that will save and save and save for a tilt. They'll say, right, we want to go up, but what we're going to do is we're going to just maintain that level for 3 or 4 years, and then we're going to have a bash at it. You know, we'll then have the money in the bank. We'll then have the infrastructure that if we go up, we can stay up. And that's how good business is run, right? If you're gonna expand something, you need to know that you are able to maintain that expansion. And a promotion to the next football league, it is an expansion of your football club because it's making your football club a bigger football club. And that's the issue for me. You're totally right in what you say, Miles. There's going to be some big names and some names that will want to beat us next year as well. And that's where the issue is for me.
Yeah, and you just also worry about when we recruit next season, like, why are players like coming to us? Because there was Simon's whole philosophy this whole time has been giving players second chances or that sort of thing. Players like coming for money. Like, I just, like I said to you earlier, I'm not going to say the same examples again. I just feel like players aren't coming here for the right reasons currently. So they don't care for the badge. Like, most of them are off at the end of the season. Like, they're like, if I was a player, board member, whoever, maybe anyone who's active in his decisions or performances or whatever it may be, I'd feel so guilty. Like, you know, because it's not only just for the fans, it's for the legacy of the club. Like, we've never been this this low before, and we have obviously been lower, but that's when we were going upwards, right? Like we came from basically nothing, pretty much.
Yeah.
We were on a high redemption, on a high arc this entire time, always sort of pushing forward up to the point where we then sort of in the last 15 years or so have plateaued at where we should be essentially. And it's just an embarrassment. I just felt like embarrassed standing. I'm not afraid to say I did boo and say what I felt at full time, because I just feel so sorry for the fans that came yesterday. Like big respect to anyone that made the journey yesterday and went to support the team, because it's really not easy currently whatsoever. And equally, if you felt like you didn't want to go or can't go for whatever reason, still respect to you, because like as supporters we can only take like so much, and if you felt like you wanted to have a day with your family, or felt like you needed a day at work or whatever it may be, or wanted to go to some other level of football that's maybe a bit more closer to home because you didn't want to trek 300 miles, fair play, because this team doesn't deserve our support sometimes, as harsh as that sounds to say. And then moving forward, we've obviously still got games left to play, 6 of them for that matter. And while they're not dead rubbers, it sort of feels like they are, and they're at a point where at least a few of them will be dead rubbers. Personally, I'm of an opinion that you can, if you don't want to turn up, for games once they're relegated, fair enough. I don't hold any slight against people that don't want to come if we're down, because at the end of the day we're playing for nothing, and it's a lot of time, effort, commitment to go and watch us, even if you're going to home games sometimes. Personally, I think I'll be going to all the home games the rest of the season for social aspects, and also I've bought my season ticket, so I want to sort of see that out essentially. And I feel personally I'm sort of like halfway house. We have this conversation way back in the way on the car about whether we're going to go to the games the rest of the season. Like people like Bob still want to go to every single game. Fair play. Like we all love the club, and we love it in different ways, and we show our support in different ways. And Bob wants to go to every game. Fair play to him. I respect that. Joe said he won't be going to any other away games for the rest of the season now. He's completely done with it, and I respect that also. I'm sort of like, with all these things, I think like I'm always sort of a bit in the middle, really. Personally, I feel like I should be there when we get relegated. I'm not saying we're dead in any sense when I say it's an analogy, but I'm of the opinion if you're there for someone's wedding, so they're on their best day of their life, you're also there for their funeral, which is one of the worst days in someone's lifespan. So personally, I feel like I should be there when we get relegated, which sadly looks like it's going to be at Worthing, which is just absolutely embarrassing, considering that we were obviously had our highest record league attendance against them, when 3,622, if my memory serves right, came into Priory Lane for that title deciding potential game last Easter, and then you trans forward a year in the future and we're in this situation where they could relegate us while they're pushing for the league title. It's just absolutely makes me feel sick. If you're involved in a club, player, manager, board, you feel embarrassed, ashamed. It's just disgraceful what's happened. So yeah, I'll be going to Worthing to see us get relegated, and then after that, I'm not going to go and waste my time and money to go to Hemel Hempstead if we're still if we're relegated by then, or Chelmsford. Because I've had enough of this season at this point, and every Saturday I'm away from my family by choice. I'm not saying anyone's forced me to go to these games, so I love the club and I love football, and going to watch Eastbourne Borough. I've done it for home and away for the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years now. But my family deserve my time as well, and more than the club currently. So yeah, once it's down, I won't be going to away games until next season.
Yeah, I agree. And, obviously, I had to work yesterday. I explained that on the pod on Thursday night. We were short of drivers, and so I needed to work, and I needed the money too, because I've spent a lot of money, a lot of Saturdays, not working because we've been, going to away games, long treks, weekends away at Torquay. But just when you were talking then, Miles, it made me think, look, that to me is the saddest thing, that we're sitting here now, and I will go to Worthing. I mean, I'll go to Worthing because, and yeah, if we're relegated at Worthing, we're relegated at Worthing. That will, that will be, it'll be hard to take. I remember me, Bobby, and Joe. We went last year. We went to Worthing against Boreham Wood, and Boreham Wood went 1-0 up, and then Worthing came back and beat them 2-1, and that was I think that was the first day they'd actually gone top of the league, and all three of us came out there and said that was a hard watch, because them young fans, and I know them young fans, some of them young fans can be idiots, but listen, I interviewed a couple of them when they came out on that first season, on that, I think it was the first season or second season, I can't remember now. Last year, I think it was, actually. And there was a couple that had caused issues, and there was also, there was young lads that were coming out saying, "Oh, mate, I wouldn't worry about him. He's an old. Thank God he's banned now." And there was two or three fans, I think, that because of what they did at Eastbourne, I think it was when the pyro came on the pitch and stuff like that. Someone from their club had already said, "Oh, they're going to get banned," and they was actually excited that this person was getting banned. So, listen, every club is going to have that element of people that, but listen, it will be a real hard watch, and I'm sure Worthing fans, and especially the young singing ones, behind the goal, will be letting us know that it's them that's relegated us. But you know what? I'm going. I don't know if I'll go after that. I don't know. The two longish away trips, and work-wise, we're now coming into wedding season, so Saturdays do start getting busier. So look, it's probably, that'll probably be my only travel away now. But the thing that I think keeps coming into my head when I'm saying this is, we're actually disappointed that we're not going to be going to them away games, but we're having to explain ourselves, and we shouldn't have to do that, right? We should have that choice. And I think that's the level of where we're at. I'm not going to lie, probably 2 or 3 times this season I've had tears in my eyes. And I am telling you now, I will cry when we get relegated. There will be tears, because as we were saying the other day in the pod, we can hurt too. The fans are hurting too. And I understand, and I know there's a lot of the, I don't want to open up this debate, but there are a lot of fans that are newer fans that probably, and they're no different to us. They're supporters of this club, right? They go, whether they go at home, whether they go home and away, whatever. I don't want to sort of. I'm not trying to split a fan base. I'm really not. But I don't know how to say this without.
Can I put an analogy for you? I've got an analogy for you. I think it might help.
Go on.
So say like you're working for a company for X amount of years or whatever, and you decide to leave. You're going to be much more emotional if you leave after working for somewhere for 20 years, so now example being in the National South for 20 years, rather than 2 years. Like, it's just anything in life, like, right? I'm sure if you have a relationship and you end up divorced or splitting up, whatever, you're going to be much more devastated, presumably, if you have a relationship with someone for 20 years rather than a year or 2 years or whatever. I'm not saying that those fans don't hurt, but like, I don't see how you can possibly hurt like people like yourself or David Blackmore or people that used to go in the National League days, essentially. Like, I'm saying this as well. Like, I consider myself like sort of a medium term level supporter. Like, I haven't just come since the takeover. I mean, if you come since the takeover, like, fair play. Like, with any fans, brilliant. If you come in the last few weeks, I mean, you're nuts, but fair play to you. You know what I mean? But
I can't believe you've made me laugh on this podcast. I didn't think I was going to do that. But,
well, there you go.
But very honest.
If you come in the last few weeks, you're mental. But welcome aboard, sort of thing. I'm in that middle stretch where I've only ever really known like a few good seasons essentially since I've started supporting us. But a lot of people have had really, really good times supporting Eastbourne Borough. And, playing against Oxford United in the FA Cup, beating Hampton and Richmond in the playoff final. We've had wins against York, Wrexham, players like Ashley Barnes score against Torquay. So many memories, and even like in recent years. Like the memories I've got of even games like Dover this season, like great day out. The games we had under Murray. I know, I'm being sentimental, mate. Being sentimental.
Oh, mate, you're gonna make me go.
I know.
I'm struggling. Go on, carry on.
Yeah, but anyway, memories like George's hat trick away at Henwell. I've still got it up on my wall, literally just back there. You might be able to see his head above the shirts. But anyway, people have memories, right? And when you have a sad time like this, an emotional time, those memories come back to the surface, and you sort of realise what you lost, I guess. So, I think that's how I'll put it. I'm not sure you can really feel it the same way if you've only been going for a year or 2 months, whatever it may be. People that have been going for a long time, it's going to really hit them hard, hit us hard. Like David Blackmore said the same thing, didn't he? He said, when we go down, people are going to cry, and that's just the sad reality of it. And however you choose to react is up to you at the end of the day. Like, I don't feel like I'm going to cry at the game. I might, but I feel like I'll just be numb at that point. But if you're at a game and you're angry, let that out to some extent. Obviously, just keep it within the lines, of course. But you're allowed to be angry. If you can just want to be silent, be silent. I mean, on the car journey on the way home, no slight on the boys because I was exactly the same. The most miserable car journey up to Cobham. After Cobham, we had a bit of a chat, but up to Cobham, literally, there must have been about, I don't know, 10 words uttered.
To me at Cobham, right? That's because I'd lightened up.
You've G'd everyone up. You've G'd everyone up. But yeah, it must have been about 15 words uttered down the whole of the M4, pretty much. I think one of them was me asking for Bob to change my glasses for me because it was getting a bit dark. So, that sort of gives you a bit of an idea about what the mood was like. So yeah, if you want to be silent, be silent. If you want to cry. Everyone's going to feel it in different ways, and if you supported us for a long time or not long at all, you're going to have a different reaction. So just react how you react. There we go.
Yeah, and I think that's probably you. I mean, Joanna, that the way you put that across was perfect. It was what I was trying to say without being able to say it, if that makes sense. So, yeah, perfect.
Better than last week, Bazay.
Yeah. So I think that's probably a good place to leave today. Is look, we all need to respect each other, and that's whatever role you're in, whether you're a supporter, a player, whatever, because there are going to be players that are hurting too, because of the club and professionally as well. So I think that's probably the place to leave it. Is that people are going to hurt in different ways, and as you said, one person's pain doesn't mean that it's any better or any worse than anybody else's.
Yeah.
So listen, if you're still here listening to us waffling on, basically this is just probably me and Miles just sort of accepting, and just trying to say it as it is or as much as we can. So, hope you've enjoyed today. I would say like, share, and subscribe, and you can do if you want, but it's probably the most depressing pod we've.
No, I'm not sure I'd like this personally. That's just me.
But,
like it for us, maybe not for the situation.
Yeah, but let us know your thoughts, guys. Anyway, we will be back hopefully in the week with hopefully a guest. but we will see. And then we say it every time, so up the sports.
Hey, up to sports.